Hi everybody, Pete here. Today I wanted to talk about vehicle maintenance. I think most people know how to maintain their vehicles, but what I found is a lot of younger folks maybe are not quite sure, or no one's ever shown them how to do it. I know when I was a Boy Scout automotive merit badge counselor, I had a lot of guys come into the house with their first cars, and it was kind of surprising how little they actually knew. So we ended up changing a lot of oil in our driveway on Scouts' cars. But I'm thinking that, if you have a child going off to college, something like that. I know when my son went off to college, there's plenty of things to worry about when your kid goes off to college. I wanted kind of vehicle reliability to be off the plate. So I wanted to take a little bit of time just to go over some of the basics in the car. And I want to, just take the opportunity to show you. And I'd recommend that if you had a son, daughter, niece, nephew, neighbor, kid, somebody like that you want to share some of the knowledge that I'm going to hopefully impart to you today, that you take the time to share with them and just give them a little confidence boost. And if they can do this, they're going to have confidence to do other things. So I think that's a great place to start. And if you could help somebody, I'd say do it. Today we're going to talk about fluids and air filters and just basic weekly checks that your young person or yourself should be looking at. In the future, maybe another video might be how to change your tire with the tools that are in the vehicle, perhaps what to put in the trunk of your student who's going off to college for vehicle survival and maintenance and safety and things like that. So we'll see how it goes. In this case, the first thing I would start with is the manual. My victim today is a 2015 Legacy Outback. This owner's manual is the best tool you can have. One of the things in the manual, it's going to talk about all the fluids. It's going to talk about where the fills are, the levels, the type of fluids. You don't want to mix fluids. And it's also going to show you where the fuses are located. So one of the things I'll probably go into first is just the general fluids. And some of the things that we have are going to be washer fluid. That's a very common one. Washer fluid is right here in this car. We can pull the top off and we can see on the side that there is a fill line down here. I'm going to add a little bit of fluid to that because it's low. I like to use the Rain-X 100%. It's pre-mixed. Years ago you used to have to add water to these things. And I'm just going to pop the top there. Now you're going to see something horrible. I never use a funnel, and I tend to drip this all over the place. It doesn't matter. Just going to fill it right up, pop the top on. As you can see, we're over the line. It really doesn't matter. But you tend to go through a lot of washer fluid. Another thing we're going to have is engine coolant. And the engine coolant, if you check your manual, you'll also see is right here. There is some marks on the back side. There is a low mark and there is a full mark. And to add coolant, we're just going to open the top up and we're just going to add the coolant up to the line, the proper coolant. So you want to check your manual on that. This is a low pressure reservoir, so you could just open this anytime. The radiator is high pressure. So I've seen and heard of some folks not being sure. They think when they have to fill the radiator that they're going to open this top up. What will happen is hot antifreeze will spray all over the place and burn you. So you want to completely stay out of there, only open this one up. Another thing we have is brake fluid. This is going to be your brake fluid up here. Also in the manual, there is a min line and a max line on there. You can see we're at the max line right now. They tell you on the cap, let me get a rag here, hang on. I like these paper towels. They also come in a single roll form. They're really sturdy and they're great for this automotive type work. I like to clean everything off before I open any caps. We don't want any dirt getting in there at all to contaminate the system. But you can see on top, it says use only .3 brake fluid from a sealed container. So, sorry, I have my finger all over it. What this is going to look like inside, that's what it looks like. You can see there's a little screen filter, and that's the fluid. You have a cap inside. You want to make sure that that rubber gasket's in good shape. What will happen with brake fluid, especially .3 fluid, it comes in a small container, little foil seal. You pop a tiny little hole in it with a little screwdriver. You don't need a big hole, and you just dribble it in. .3 brake fluid is very corrosive. You do not want to get it on your hands. You don't want to get it on your paint because it will dissolve and bubble your paint up. You don't want to keep that can too long because the .3 brake fluid is hydroscopic. It will absorb water over time, and then you'll have water in your brake reservoir and your brake lines. So that's something to keep in mind. It's kind of a fill it and forget it with the brake fluid. You can't keep it too long. The other thing is you should always be at max with your brake fluid. The only time you should be low with brake fluid is if you have a leak, which is a big concern. Get some professional attention on that. Or if your brake pads are wearing, because the fluid has to replace the space where the pad material used to be. So that's something to keep in mind if you see that happening. The next fluid thing, super important, engine oil. That's also in your manual. It tells you where the dipsticks are. If you notice, all the fill points are all a yellow color, so it's meant to get your attention so you don't miss anything. This happens to be the oil fill or the oil check spot. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw on some latex gloves. I go through a lot of these with our different vehicle projects and things like that. I also keep latex gloves are really cheap. I keep a box in my truck, in my car. I use them when I pump gas. I use them if I have to do something on the car. Again, with the extra strong paper towels I like to use. So we'll just pull this out. I'm going to put the stick right here. Pull it up, and I can't really see much. There's kind of oil all over that stick. So I'm going to clean that. I'm going to clean that off. I'm going to leave it right on the paper towel on the end, so you're not trying to thread the needle with that thing. So I'm actually going to hold it with my rag. I'm going to put the tip in. I'm going to put it right down in there. You have to kind of follow the bend of the tube all the way down. Car is always on a level surface when you're doing this, and the engine should be cool. Okay, so it looks to me like we're a little bit over on there, but the car is on a little bit of a tilt downhill. So I would say we are full at this point. You should be right on this little dot right here. So in essence, since my driveway is a little slanted, the stick should look like that when it's full. Now, if the stick is down, the measurement's down here to this hole, then you have to add 1 quart of oil. 1 quart of oil will bring you to full. So you don't have to guess at it, okay? So we're gonna put this back in. And now that I've got my paper towel all dirty, I'm also gonna take the opportunity just to clean the O-ring. And I'm just gonna clean around the dipstick a little bit. And then we'll put it right back in. Again, following the curve of the tube. Now, if we had to add oil, we're going to go to the other side of the engine bay. And we have the oil fill right here. So you can see there's an oil symbol on there. Please see your owner's manual so you don't put the wrong kind of oil in. And the engine oil called for in this car is 0W20. So I like to clean all the caps off to get all the dust and the dirt off, especially around the sides when I'm opening any sealed system. This might be a little tight. We'll just unscrew that. Okay, be ready with the paper towel just so we catch anything. You can see I'm gonna take the opportunity to clean the O-ring on that a little bit. And just clean this off. There's some goop up in there. We're here already. We might as well put it back together better than we found it. So I'm just gonna set this aside. So if you can see down inside, that's where we're going to add the oil. One of the things This is actually the oil that we use in this car. Open the cap, pour it in, sort of. If you take the oil and you go to pour it in like this, air has to go into the bottle. And I know I talk a lot about all kinds of things. I love details. But when you pour the oil has to come out, but air has to go in. If the air has a really long way to go to get up to the top of the bottle, and the oil is going to be blub, blub, blub right out of the bottle is going to squirt right over the top of your funnel. If you turn the bottle this way, you can see you have a much shorter distance. Plus the oil is all down here. So you're going to get a much more controlled pour if you hold the bottle this way. There's a reason the tops are offset. So it's going to be nice and clean. The other thing is, as you can see, it's going to be kind of hard to pour from up here, even with our controlled pour method. So it's going to be very difficult to get in there, so you need a funnel. Maybe not everybody has a funnel. Maybe you're at a gas station, maybe you're at a thruway rest stop or something like that. You can use your Starbucks cup. You can just cut the bottom off in an emergency. You can slit the side of the paper cup, and you could just make a cone out of it. And then this cone will just go right in there, and then you have a little bit of a chance to be able to pour. You're a little bit closer, you can pour into that as an emergency kind of funnel. Another thing you can do that most people have, water bottle. I just took a water bottle, cut the bottom of it, so I made kind of a funnel out of it. The other thing I did, which is, you probably don't have to, but when you take the cap off, there's always that little piece of plastic ring left on there. I just cut that off. I just felt weird that it might fall off. We don't want it falling down into no man's land. So this would be our emergency funnel. We'd put it right in there, and then we would just use that as a funnel to fill the oil. So there's plenty of things you can do, and that would be my tip for filling the oil and a DIY kind of funnel ideas. Another thing, another fluid you can check is your transmission fluid. Now this is a Subaru, so this has a CVT transmission or a belt drive transmission, so there's no transmission fluid to check. Some other cars in this class might have sealed transmissions. The fluid's in there for life. It might be a dealer check only, something like that. If you do have an automatic transmission with a dipstick, it's also going to have a yellow handle. It's going to look very much like the engine oil. It will say transmission fluid on it. Again, you'll have your car on a level surface. It'll have to be at operating temperature, and then the car will actually have to be running in neutral. Normally you put the emergency brake on, have somebody sit in the car with their foot on the brake if you're worried about it, put the car in neutral, then you check the transmission fluid while the car is running. So every car is different, and that's when I seriously suggest getting into the manual, because the manual will describe everything for you. Another thing we could discuss quickly is the air filter. The air filter in your car is a pretty inexpensive item. Very important, because it filters the air to the engine. Clean air into the engine means long life for your engine. It's also going to give you improved fuel economy, and that's really important these days. This car happens to have a K&N washable, reusable filter. These filters are great. Excellent airflow. This is the filter box. Normally, every car is different, and I know this is a Subaru, but you normally pull this off, and you can see that it doesn't really come apart that well. This is actually the edge of the filter right here. You can kind of see the filter in there. I can kind of force the filter out, but with this kind of setup in the Subaru, what we would do is just loosen up this one screw, and this rubber boot will pull right off. This whole backside pulls out. It's very easy to do. It would take 5 minutes to change that filter. Some other vehicles have a similar kind of clip that comes off, and then the filter just like pulls straight out of the enclosure, then you can put it back in. It depends what your car is. There's all kinds of ways to do it. So I would say that all the fluid things should be a weekly check. Air filter, I wouldn't worry about that so much. That's pretty much whenever you take your car in to get the oil changed. Make sure they check your air filter at the same time. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe.